So a couple Mondays ago, Karen and I watched Jeopardy. And it was James Holzhauer's historic run of 32 wins in a row. It came to an end when a 27-year-old librarian from Chicago defeated him. I guess one of those things that my dad taught me is all good things must come to an end. Well, we did not feel at all bad for him because he won $2,464,216 before taxes. So a few questions before Final Jeopardy. The category was political philosophy, and Alex Trebek asked, remove 2 letters from equality to get this: the idea of giving remedies to the less fortunate to ensure equality. Now, before the next slide, the answer is equity. There's a difference between equality and equity. It shows up on the slide to your left. Everyone's given the same. Equality, everybody's treated the same. Equity is giving to those who need more, giving less to those who have more. So we're going to keep that picture up because we're going to remember what equity is rather than equality. And we know that there's a lot of chatter going around these days about equality and socialism, and seems to be all this bantered around in political discourse. And some are being identified and labeled as liberal socialists, willing to take down capitalism. Others have made it very clear that they have nothing to do with this socialism and a pure market principled Reagan Republicans. So, believe it or not, I've had a few of those lively conversations, which have been very appropriate, but it's not for here and it's not for now. So I'm not going to argue, I'm not going to convince, I'm not going to tempt you into believing something that you do not believe. Because I don't believe the intent of the passage is to elevate one economic system over the other, but rather, and hear this, the intent is to invite us into a deeper conversation about meeting needs and sharing resources. It's not about how one makes money or how much money one makes, but rather about how one chooses to use their money. Christians in the first century valued each other and human equity. They valued that so far that they established a community of faith where no one was discounted, where the value was not placed on the accumulation of material wealth or money, but upon individual sacrifice and contributions for each other and for the common good. So as I read Acts, it seems to me that they established a community based upon compassion, and from that compassion, they use their resources to distribute to everyone according to their need and not greed. Now, I know the box is a real simplistic kind of image for us, and that equity and need can be argued. But what I can say is that at First Church, that early Christian community, one of their value was on human equity, public compassion, and shared resources for the good of the community. They were one in the Spirit of Christ, and they were formulating the beloved community. And the value of equity provided resources for those in need. But it's also something more important, or as important, is that it affirms those values of the first century Christians because they stood as a viable alternative to the institutional inequities and injustices of the Roman Empire. They were creating a new way, a better way, a way that helped meet the needs of those and to give us a vision of how to overcome the unhealthy practices and principles of our society. So let's go back to the text, and here's how it goes. In a few verses before that, we read that a spirit of giving had broken out in the early church, and the giving of proceeds was a practice. And the result of their generosity was there not a needy person among them. They were motivated by the value of equity. We hear a guy named Joseph from Cyprus. He sold his field and gave all the money to the apostles. And they were so impressed that they changed his name to Barnabas. And Barnabas means son of encouragement. Then we hear of another man, Ananias. He got caught up in that spirit of giving and wanted to do what Barnabas did. But when Ananias sold his field and he took a long, good look at all that cash, he decided he better just hold back a little bit and just tell them that he was giving it all. And the narrative also informs us that his wife agreed to it. They, in effect, agreed to lie. So I want to pause for a few moments and chat about lying. I don't know too much about this subject, so I did the next best thing. I Googled it. And there are 1,290,000,000 sites on lying. Who would have guessed there is that many sites on lying? So I got lost in the web. For hours and hours and hours and hours I read about lying, and I'm not lying either. There's no cross fingers, not speaking in parables. So I finally stumbled on this book called The Day America Told the Truth. It's around 30 years old. And it says that 91% of those surveyed lied routinely about matters they considered trivia. 91% of those surveyed told white lies. The lies that we tend to overlook. The lie, like when I ask you how helpful the sermon was, you all tell me little white lies. We live in a culture where it's okay to tell white lies. But the research in the book also discovered that 36% lie about important matters. So why do people lie? Some people lie to preserve their self-interest, their self-image. Whether it be minor lies or lies that exaggerate one's accomplishments or elaborate on tall tales that omit important information. These folks lie for a reason, because they want to engage in impression management. People lie because they have personality disorders. This form of lying stems from a far deeper and darker problem. It's a personality disorder is prone to manipulation. They lie in order to deceive, to manipulate for their own benefit. Some people lie to protect a relationship or someone's feelings. These kind of lies are usually told to protect a significant relationship. While the intention behind this form may be well-intended or deceitful, its main agenda is to preserve the relationship or spare someone undue and unnecessary pain. So there's more. Remember, 1,290,000,000 sites. There's a lot of reasons people lie. They lie to protect somebody. It's done with the intention of protecting someone from the consequences of their action, like a domestic violence survivor might lie about the extent of her abuse in a misguided attempt to protect her abuser. Some people lie to impress people and to boast their reputations. This is a common kind of lie, not a white lie, but it's normally told to impress society or to impress a crucial stakeholder in your life. Some people lie to evade conflict. According to psychologists, some liars deceive in order to avoid conflict or confrontation. So there are numerous reasons why we lie. Ananias' lie was the result of valuing material and money from human community, and it cost them. I heard a story about 4 high school boys who couldn't resist the temptation to skip morning class. They had kind of been smitten with that bad case of spring fever, so they showed up after lunch and reported to the teacher that their car had a flat tire. Much to their relief, the teacher smiled and said, "Well, you missed the quiz this morning, so take your seats and get your pencil and paper out." Still smiling, she waited, and they all settled down and got ready for her questions. Then she said, "First question, which tire was flat?" Ananias, the lie was a result of valuing something over the human community at cost. And remember what happened to him? He mimics Barnabas' action. He lays down his money at the feet of the apostles, but he definitely didn't get a new name. He gets a rebuke from Peter. How is it that you contrived this deed in your heart? You did not lie to us, but you lied to God. And then we are told when Ananias heard these words, he fell down and died. The lie cost him everything. And the young men of the church carried him away and buried him. After saying that, I need to confess something. I really did not spend hours upon hours upon hours on the internet reading about lying. I just said that to impress you with my expertise on lying. Or come to think about it, maybe I don't need to do much research on this at all. It's interesting to notice that Peter didn't care that Ananias did not give all the money from selling his land. He even told Ananias that it was his land. He could do with it what he wanted. He could have kept all the money. The problem wasn't that he held back the money, but he lied about it. Ananias lost his life in a lie. And as the story continues, 3 hours later, his wife comes in. Peter asks her, "Tell me, you and your husband sold the property for such and such a price. Is that true?" She looked at the figure and said, "Yes, that was the price." And Peter said, "How is it that you have agreed together to put the Lord to test? Look at the feet of those who buried your husband. They are at the door, and they will carry you out as well." And immediately we are told that she fell down at his feet and died. Maybe they died of heart attacks, or maybe they died of shame, but we don't know why or how they died. Because maybe that's not really all that's really important. Not how they died. And what is important and what I want you to hear is that generosity changes lives. Generosity changes lives. I don't know whether you remember that a few years ago there was a movie called Pay It Forward. Anybody remember it? Little junior high, middle school, I guess it's called. Named Trevor was challenged by one of his teachers to think about one idea that changed the world and then put that into action. So Trevor decided that he would try to do one extravagant act of kindness for 3 different people. And afterwards, he would ask those 3 people each to pay forward by doing something random and extravagant to 3 other people who are told to pay it forward. So the movie shows what happens when people take seriously the challenge to pay it forward. Lives were changed. The impact of those acts were not only affected the school, it went across the whole country. They made a movie out of it, and it showed that one person could take part in something big, even life-changing. And what I want to say to you is that generosity towards the future lies in giving in the present. So here is some truth. When you do enough giving, it will transform your life. And we're not just talking about resources. We're talking about giving affection to each other and giving more compassion and caring for others more. We're talking about being Christ-like. And when we live enough Christ-like days or moments, life gets transformed. Because when you do enough giving, it will make you someone who is no longer worried about not having enough. And it will help you focus on being a son or daughter of encouragement. Do enough giving, and let's change lives. Let's pray. Holy God, we give you thanks for your word. Now help us to embody it, to be generous in our living and our giving, our loving. Let us be people of encouragement and build up your body, the beloved community. So take us out and help us. Help us to see each other as you see us. For we do pray. Amen.